Hello and welcome to Heavenly Minded. I'm Chloe Wilson and I'm so pleased that you've chosen to listen to this podcast today. Today, we're going to be talking about what it means to be in the world and not of the world when you are a professional athlete, when you are competing in competitions right the way around the world, including the Olympics. Yes, that's right. I did say the Olympics. We're joined today by Abigail Irozuru. Now, she is an English track and field athlete. She specialises in long jump. You may have seen her at the Olympics this year over in Tokyo. Now, she qualified. She went to the final of the long jump. And then things didn't quite go to plan. So I'm hoping she'll share a little bit about what that was like for her and how she stays heavenly minded when she's trying to win medals. But is that the end goal? Well, Abigail, hello and welcome to Heavenly Minded.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
It's so lovely to have you with us. And I think we do need to point out here that we've managed to grab you whilst you're in the middle of a relatively busy-ish day. So where are you at this point in time?
I am running errands in Manchester, so dashing between shops as I'm renovating a couple of rooms in my new home. And it's off season, so this is perfect time to get things done. It's only after my season has ended at the end of August that I've purchased the property and started all the renovations. So this has definitely just been a hobby that I've discovered over the past couple of weeks.
Oh, I see. So you've literally only just moved in and you're starting to do it all up.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I start back training at the end of the month / beginning of October. So then I know I'll be too tired. I won't really have the time or the energy to really focus on that. So at the moment, September is my time to build my home and my business.
Nice.
Those are my two focuses.
Before we get into like all the sport talk and all of that, can you just tell us how you became a Christian? Would you share your testimony with us?
I was blessed to grow up in a Christian home. So both of my parents are Christian. And so I went to church probably from from week one following my birth. And yeah, I've just grown up in the house of God in Manchester. And I don't think I've really ever left. Even when I went to university, I made sure that I was established in the church. And that's not to say that I'm perfect, or because Christians, sometimes people think that we assume that we are. No, we're all sinners. But it's just to say that I'm thankful that I've always had that community. I've always had that relationship with God.
Let's talk about long jump then, because you are a track and field athlete. You specialise in long jump in particular, and you've been to the Olympics this year. How in the world did you discover that you were good at long jump? Because, you know, when I think back to my childhood, I had swimming lessons and I did swimming for a little bit, or some of my friends were into running or football. But how'd you get into long jump?
Yeah, it's exactly the same way as, I guess, how you discovered your hobbies, or you engage in different hobbies. I also did the same thing. So my mum got me involved in gymnastics, in dance, and swimming as well. Like my evening extracurricular program was chock-a-block. I loved it. It was just Sundays that we had. I had nothing on. I went to church and then all of my cousins and my siblings, we went to our grandma's house and played in the park. So that was my lifestyle. And I think that because of that, it meant that when I went to a track at the age of around 13 or 14, this was through a training course, so like the mini RAF, where you get to fly planes and shoot rifles. I participated in the 100, the 200, the relay, and the long jump, just because they were like, oh, try to do these events. And then I won them all. But specifically at the long jump pit, my old coach, who obviously I didn't know at the time, Ian Wiltshire, he said, oh, you're pretty good at this. Why don't you come to Sports City and actually come and train with us? So actually that's how I fell into it, through a different hobby. And yeah, then suddenly all of the other hobbies that took up my time slowly dwindled away, because I started to focus much more on training for athletics or track and field.
It just blows my mind I mean, anyone who's into athletics, the only athletics, I say athletics, quotation marks here. I do like a walk at home workout most mornings where I'm like marching on the spot. But I can remember those like school sports days where like the whole school had to participate and you had to do a certain event. I remember they tried to get us to do the long jump in athletics, but I found it so difficult. What is it that you love in particular about the long jump?
I love that when you jump, you get to fly for a moment. There's a moment of flight when you hit it correctly, when you hit that right position, you do feel like you're soaring and like you're going to be in the air forever. And that's a wonderful feeling. Also, I mean, I remember saying the three main reasons that I kept pursuing this particular sport. I got to travel quite a lot. I loved the idea of winning medals. And I loved that I was meeting new people all the time. So those are my three reasons for starting and continuing and sticking at it for as long as I did.
Mm.
But when you just asked me that question, it's definitely that feeling of flight. It's that feeling of soaring.
I never actually got that experience because I'd never clearly got it right. Otherwise, I would have experienced that moment of flight. But who knows? Maybe I ought to have a go at some point in the future, and you'll have to teach me how to do it properly so I can fly a little bit there.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to.
Brilliant. Well, you've said it now. I will quite happily hold you to it. So you said there the three reasons about what you love about the long jump. Well, number two, you said traveling, right? So in terms of traveling, well, you've just been to Japan. You've been to Tokyo. You've been to the Olympics this year. I mean, that must have been, well, I'm going to assume here, one of the highlights of your career so far.
Oh, wow. Being in Japan, being at an Olympic Games in Tokyo was very, very special. Definitely has to be a highlight. It's something that it's for me the pinnacle of an athlete's career. I mean, of course, there's other things as well, high achievements, world championships, Europeans, all of these other things. I think that everybody seems to know what the Olympic Games is. They don't know when a European Championships is. They don't know when the World Championships is on. But the whole world stops for the Olympics. And I think that was really so, so special to finally be able to say, I'm an Olympian, I've made an Olympic team.
Definitely. That is such an incredible achievement. Now, there were quite a few people in our office who were really like cheering you on. You had like the whole UCB family cheering you on when you were going to the Olympics, which was absolutely wonderful. Just talk us through what happened in the long jump, because you then posted on Instagram after it all kind of happened. You said, yesterday I was on top of the world. Today I fell flat. The highs and lows of elite sport day. Talk us through what happened there.
So in the qualifying round, I actually hit the qualifying standard bang on to get me into the Olympic final. And then 2 days later, I came to compete and essentially did not do myself justice. I don't think that it was an accurate reflection, the result of where I was, the condition that I was at, even mentally, physically, emotionally. And yeah, I just think sometimes you have a bad day. It was a terrible time to have a bad day. And on reflection, I know exactly where things went wrong in terms of there was a little bit of panic because of the fact that I think I fouled in the first round. And my runway felt really, really bad. So there were a lot of technical aspects to my performance that ordinarily I would have been very quick to address, or probably wouldn't even have been a problem. So I guess you don't want to say you crumble under the pressure, but that could potentially have been a thing where my head just went and I just wasn't in the same headspace, or I didn't maybe have the same level of trust and faith in myself and, you know, in God, I guess, as I did only 2 days before. So yeah, very frustrating situation to happen in an Olympic Games. But yeah, it's still a tough one to really digest.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, I was going to say I understand, but I guess I'll never fully understand. But I think a lot of people will be kind of nodding their heads and going, that is understandable because, you know, you've made it into the final, and then to have a bad day, as you said yourself, it's a terrible time to have a bad day, but it happened. Now, you mentioned God. So obviously this podcast is about being heavenly minded, being in the world and not of it. So you have that disappointment. How then, as a Christian, do you then kind of pick yourself up and move forward?
For me, it was feeling all the emotions. That was my initial response. Just I left that stadium and had to run into a corner of the warm-up track and just screamed a lot. Just not at anything or anybody in particular, just to let it all out because I needed to shout. It needed to come out. And to be very honest, just believing that, God has a plan, God has a purpose, and in everything it works for the good of those who love him and are called according to that purpose. And I think that whatever I'll learn something from this, and hopefully even the way that I shared that post to reflect the high and the low, the fact that, I'm hopefully not going to be cursing or spewing anger, just the way that I'm displaying my faith, hopefully is pointing people back to Jesus. I don't know, there's so many, for me, I am still in a place of kind of grieving the performance, grieving the games. It was a very bittersweet time. I want to say this without crying, because I've busied myself so much with the housework and business that I've assigned time, a few days of I'm just going to do a quiet retreat, like silent retreat, to really just fully see what happened, to fully digest the situation, and to make sure that I move into the next season fresh and restored and just in a better mindset, and just really letting go of that past because it's happened. There's nothing I can do about it. It's just time to move forward and ensure that it hopefully never happens again.
But always remembering that God has got your best interests at heart no matter what happens. And sometimes things happen and the rug gets pulled out from underneath our feet, doesn't it? And it just feels like you're kind of sitting there and going, hang on a minute, what's just happened here? But I love that you have assigned yourself that time to process. I think that's really important. I mean, you don't have to share about this at all if you don't want to, but during that silent time, will there be moments where maybe you go into the Bible, where you're spending time with God, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's the main reason for the retreat, to be fair. I'll be there with my book, my Bibles, and my journal. And in answer to that first question that you just asked me, then it's more realizing that athletics isn't my world. God is, God is the center. So ultimately, if you put things into perspective, yes, the Olympics has been something that I've been working towards for the half of my life, I guess. But so what? Ultimately, we have to look at things from an eternal perspective. It's important to me, but there's so much more to come. And I think sometimes you have to remind yourself of perspective. This is literally not the end of the world. It's not, my life isn't over. I'm not hurt in any way. There's so many positives that have come from that. And just remembering that helps me to just I'm not disappointed in God. I can't be disappointed in God. It's more disappointment in myself, and knowing that, God still has a plan. His will still will be accomplished. So in that quiet time, it will be about, I'll bring my training diaries and reflect in that way. But of course, there'll still be a lot of prayer, a lot of praising. I praise a lot. There's always a worship song. For some reason, last night, I couldn't get the song, The Stand by Hillsong United out of my head. And I realized that song I played it on Spotify, and that song is from 2006. So I've just been replaying that album this morning. And then I realized, because I'd been reading something in Isaiah 7 about stand firm in faith. I can't remember the exact verse. So, I'm always plugged into Bible study, but I just think sometimes in the rush and the hurry of life, I'd only have half an hour or an hour in the morning. It's nice to just be able to spend a couple of days immersed in that.
Well, that was going to be one of my other questions, like just taking the Olympics out of the equation for the moment and just focusing on you and being an athlete in general. How do you fit your quiet time and reading your Bible, listening to worship? How do you cope with doing that? But yeah, I'm sure you've got a very intense training session when you're, focusing on the competitions. How do you get that balance right?
It's actually easier for me to do Bible study when I'm competing. Well, for the past 18 months or 2 years, I guess, because we're not sharing rooms at competitions generally. And so, because of the way that I'm trying to be very focused on the competition, it means that I generally am not on the phone with friends or distracted by just life because you're abroad. So I have more time on those in those times to spend time with God. We also, there's Christians in Sport as an organization, and the leaders from Christians in Sport are often at these events. So certainly at the games, certainly in my last couple of competitions, I was able to speak with them. We did some Bible study together with some of the other girls from British athletics, and also from other nations. We come together and do Bible study at these events. So actually, it's in those times it's actually a lot easier to create space to pray and to study the Word. My quiet time is from around 7:30 for an hour, so around 7:30 to 8:30 in the morning at the moment. And then after that, I can get on with the rest of my day. So responding to emails, just doing business, doing work, doing life. When I'm training, then my quiet time might be a little bit later in the day. I might have less time in the morning because I'm often, well, from previous experience anyway, I'm often in a rush. I'm often quite tired when I'm in training mode because there's just so much of it. And I feel quite exhausted a lot of the time.
That is completely fair to say. I'm allowing you to say that. I don't want you to feel like you have to be saying, oh, yeah, I'm doing my quiet time really early in the morning and getting up even earlier. Because I was having this conversation with someone the other day, and everyone copes with their quiet time in a different way. And there's no like rule book, is there, in terms of when you should spend time with God, because every single day is different. And, you know, for me, I take a good 15 minutes to wake up with my cup of tea before I can even focus on anything. Whereas other people, they wake up at 5 o'clock and they can start studying the Word straight away. And I look at them and I go, how are you even awake at that point in time? But what I'm just really getting from what you're saying is that you are prioritizing the Word and seeking to make that your priority, whether you are training or whether you're not, whether you're resting, relaxing, whether you're in competition season. Is that something, prioritizing the Word, has that really helped you when it comes to competing? Because I guess you could say that athletics is quite a secular area to be in.
Yes, studying the Word is always helpful in every area of my life. When things are going great, it reminds me to be humble, obviously, to be thankful for what I'm achieving and to be proud of myself, but also just to do that in a way that isn't just all the focus is on me, like remembering that who gave me this gift and remembering to nurture that gift. And then when things aren't going great, it also helps me, or when I'm anxious about trying to perform well, it gives me, I gain a little bit more peace and perspective from studying the Word. And also I ask people to pray with me. So it actually strengthens relational bonds with friends, family, and I guess athletics colleagues. But also I'm continually strengthening my bond with, I guess, my Heavenly Father, because I realize I can't do any of what I do in my own strength.
So, in terms of when you go to compete, whatever kind of competition we're looking at here, how do you stay heavenly minded when maybe you've won a medal? You said that number one of the reasons why you like doing the long jump, you like winning medals. That was one of your reasons. And I think that's a fair point. Like gaining a medal, gaining an award is a lovely thing. It gives you that sense of recognition and achievement. But when you're then winning an award, how do you stay heavenly minded? Because we see so many athletes kind of pinning their hopes on winning the next award and then maybe winning it and then going, oh, well, it's just another award. I must strive towards the next one. And it's almost like that constant moving forward towards that next award. I don't know if that makes sense what I'm trying to say here, but if you win a medal, if you don't win a medal, how do you stay heavenly minded in that?
So I feel as though it's just keeping eternity in mind. I'm reading through Ecclesiastes at the moment, and obviously Solomon was really struggling at that time because he's all talking about, life is meaningless, everything is meaningless, just enjoy your toil, enjoy partying, work hard, play hard, all of that. But obviously we can't just have the perspective of what's happening on this earth. And so I think, yeah, it's great to win a medal. As an athlete as well, I can't help but think, what about the next one? But for me, when I do win those medals or when things are going well, I do try to just sit in that moment and appreciate it a little bit more and be very thankful and take time to celebrate it as much as I think every athlete would tell you. That's really, really hard to do. We kind of want to pin it up and just kind of run away onto the next thing and say, oh, that there was so many mistakes in that performance. So we want to be hard on ourselves. And maybe actually that's not expressing gratitude to God for actually the blessing that it is. So even in my disappointment, for example, with the Olympics, people are just celebrating me and encouraging me, and they're so excited for me, friends and family, for having had that achievement. But for me, it's been very hard for me to see it in that way. Actually, I just felt like I needed to celebrate it, even though I didn't want to. I framed the certificate saying I'm an Olympian. I've got photos printed off, and I'm just trying to commemorate it, not in a way because I'm proud, because I'm genuinely not. It's actually kind of forcing me into that perspective of gratitude, doing these things. And I think that's being heavenly minded, because why would I not be grateful for the gift that I've been given? But also being heavenly minded is, why would I not also strive to achieve even greater things? Because it's about not wasting the talent. Literally the talent, we've got the parable of the talents. Being heavenly minded to me as well, it's about not wasting that talent that we've been gifted, being a good and faithful servant and stewarding what we've received. My gift is to be able to jump right now, but it's not going to be forever. And understanding that from an eternal perspective, what are you doing? And I would, ask whoever's listening as well, what is the gift that God has given to you? What has he put in your hand? What is your talent? Because that needs to be nurtured. It's not just going to sit there, because if you do that, you want to hear God say, well done, good and faithful servant. And I think that's what I keep in my mind and in my heart.
I'm going to be honest, I don't really know what to say off the back of that, because that's just made me sit there and go, how many times do I sit and criticize myself? Okay, I'm not a long jumper, I'm not an athlete, but as I fondly like to say, I talk for England at times. I do various different radio shows. I'm doing this podcast, and the amount of times you can come away from doing a show or whatever area you're in, you can come away from maybe a job or a conversation and just nitpick, can't you? You can go, well, I did that wrong. I could have done that so much better. I could have said this in a certain way. I wish I hadn't done that. But I love what you said about keeping in mind that, well, you want to hear God saying, well done, good and faithful servant. And as you said, we are stewards and we need to look after these gifts and use them, because it's no good as being given these gifts and we just sit there and go, all right, cool, I've got these gifts, but we've actually got to use them for God's glory. That's what it's all about. So that was really helpful. Thank you for sharing that. But Abigail, I'm just going to circle back to something that you said right at the very start of this conversation. You said that when you were younger and you had like a jam-packed schedule, like all your after-school activities, you were going and doing gymnastics and dancing, but Sundays were that day where you just went to church, so you spent time with family. Is that something that you've then tried to do throughout your career? You've tried to set Sundays apart? I mean, I appreciate that with different timetables that you may have, that's not always possible, but do you try and keep Sunday as a set apart day?
I tried to keep a Sabbath. Sometimes, like you said, it's not always going to be Sunday because I might have a competition on Sunday. But I do try to keep a Sabbath because I do think it's important. I think it's honoring of God. It's the reason why the Israelites were kind of exiled for so long, because they didn't honor that Sabbath rest for themselves nor for the land. So I think it's important that we give ourselves that space. It's one of the 10 commandments, right? And I don't know, is it? Just for a moment, my mind just kind of just shut off.
Now I'm
God
doubting myself
rested.
too.
So
Yeah.
I just think in all of these things, when we honor the Sabbath, we actually honor God, because we say, oh, I trust you. I trust that I don't have to work 7 days. It's not just that, it's for our mental, emotional physical and spiritual health. It's a holistic wellness practice. And so for all of those reasons, I genuinely do. I'll even say, like the other day, people, even my mum, was kind of pressuring me to do certain bits of work on a certain day. And I just said, I'm sorry, I can't do this. This is my Sabbath day. Can you bring this up on Monday or, the next day? When people ask me about work things in church or anything like that, I'm just quite, I don't know how to say it. I'm quite strict with certain things. And that's something that I really try to be strict on. I think there's a couple of books that I love on this, but one of them is Take the Day Off. I can't remember who that's by. Robert Morris, maybe. And he speaks about the Sabbath and honoring that. So I think that's quite a good one for people who want to kind of learn more about it and want to be challenged to honor that a little bit more.
I've just found it, although I got very confused because I typed in "take the day off" and it came up with some kind of cleansing balm, and I was like, right, don't think that's quite what we're referring to here, but no, it is Robert Morris. Take the day off, receiving God's gift of rest. And also to confirm, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. That is the 4th commandment out of the 10 commandments. So getting rid of any doubt there, you were correct. It is one of the 10 commandments. And the other book is Take the Day Off from Robert Morris. See, you do know it. More confidence, have more confidence in yourself. Abigail, this has been really wonderful to chat to you. Thank you so much for your honesty. I appreciate that you are still in this period of processing everything that's happened over the past few months or so. But as you said, God has given you a gift to jump, to give you that period where you feel like you're flying. And, we can't wait to see what God's got in store for you next. So thank you so much for opening up and for sharing your tips on being heavenly minded.
Thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure.
I don't really know what else to say other than, wow. Abigail was just so incredibly honest, wasn't she? I loved what she shared about how she seeks to prioritize the word as and when she can. She's clearly so rooted in God and in her identity in Christ, but she really challenged me, and I hope that she challenged you too in terms of the talents and the gifts that you and I have been given by God. Steward them, won't you? Maybe there's a gift that God has given you that maybe you're not sure how to go about using it. You're scared to. Well, can I encourage you, as Abigail was saying, go out there and seek to use it, because that is what God has called you to do. He's called you to bring glory to his name through the different gifts and talents that he's bestowed you with. I hope that there are a few things for you to take away from the podcast. I think I need to go and sit and just read my Bible and just kind of process that conversation. What a wonderful woman. What a wonderful episode. I hope that you agree. And if you do, feel free to leave us a review and a rating. Remember to follow, to turn on notifications so that you get the next episode of Heavenly Minded straight to wherever you get your podcast from. And the next episode is out next Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you soon.